Have you ever wondered what mysteries might be hidden behind the historical figures we thought we knew? Imagine discovering that a woman, relegated for centuries to a secondary role in the traditional Christian narrative, might have been much more than just a follower of Jesus. Today we will explore this intriguing possibility as we delve into the fascinating world of the Gospel attributed to Mary Magdalene, a text that challenges everything we thought we knew about the role of women in early Christianity. Welcome to this journey of discovery, where we will examine ancient documents and modern theories that have shaken the foundations of religious history. This analysis does not seek to confront dogmas or generate unnecessary controversy, but simply to illuminate little-known aspects of our cultural and spiritual heritage. Join me on this exploration that promises to reveal new perspectives on a historical figure who has perhaps been unjustly underestimated for too long. At the heart of this investigation lies an apocryphal text that has generated intense academic and theological debates, the so-called Gospel of Mary. This document, discovered in fragments separated by centuries and distances, offers a radically different view of who Mary Magdalene really was and what her true role might have been in the movement initiated by Jesus of Nazareth. The most significant archaeological findings related to this text emerged in the 20th century, particularly with the discovery of the Nag Hammadi manuscripts in 1940, although some fragments had already appeared in the Berlin Codex in 1896. The importance of these documents lies in their ability to question the traditional image of Mary Magdalene as a simple repentant penitent. Instead, they present us with a central figure in the spiritual development of Jesus' early followers, someone who received special teachings and who might have been a prominent leader in the primitive communities. This reinterpretation not only affects our understanding of early Christianity, but also has profound implications for how we perceive the role of women in religious history. We will explore layer upon layer of historical evidence, from canonical texts to Gnostic writings, through Renaissance artistic interpretations and contemporary theories that connect scattered dots over 2,000 years of history. This journey will lead us to examine how official traditions were formed, which texts were excluded, and why and how these decisions have influenced our current perception of religious history. The starting point is the popular image of Mary Magdalene present in canonical biblical tradition. In the accepted Gospels, we find references to a woman named Mary Magdalene who accompanied Jesus during his public ministry. It specifically mentions that Jesus freed her from 7 demons, although it does not specify exactly what this meant in its historical context. She also appears at crucial moments. She is present during the crucifixion, visits the empty tomb, and is a direct witness to the resurrection. However, this representation has been subject to varied interpretations over the centuries. Confusion with other women mentioned in the Gospels, particularly with the anonymous sinner who anoints Jesus' feet, led to the development of a tradition that portrays Mary Magdalene primarily as a repentant prostitute. This interpretation, although not explicitly supported by canonical texts, became deeply rooted in popular imagination and in certain theological currents. Gnostic texts, on the other hand, offer a completely different perspective. These writings, belonging to a philosophical and spiritual movement that emphasized inner knowledge, gnosis, as the path to salvation, present Mary Magdalene as a distinguished disciple and even as a recipient of Jesus' secret teachings. Gnosticism, with its roots in Hellenistic and Eastern thought, viewed the material world as a prison of the spirit and sought liberation through spiritual revelations. Within Gnostic Christianity, various texts developed this alternative view of Mary Magdalene. The book known as the Gospel of Mary, although incomplete in its current form, clearly shows how this female figure occupied a privileged place among the disciples. In this writing, after the resurrection, it is Mary who receives visions and special revelations from Jesus, then sharing this knowledge with the other apostles. The structure and content of the Gospel of Mary differ significantly from the canonical Gospels. While Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John focus on narrating biographical events of Jesus, this text focuses on the transmission of deep spiritual teachings. A key episode shows the disciples, including Peter, questioning why Jesus would have shared such important revelations exclusively with Mary. This tension reveals real conflicts within the early Christian communities regarding spiritual authority and leadership. The drafting of the Gospel of Mary reflects a distinctive worldview. It describes a process of spiritual ascension through levels or powers, each representing different internal obstacles that the soul must overcome to achieve enlightenment. This metaphor of the inner struggle against passions and material attachments presents a systematic approach to spiritual development that complements, though sometimes contradicts, certain aspects of emerging Orthodox theology. The physical discovery of these texts occurred in stages separated by decades. First, Greek fragments appeared in the Berlin Codex at the end of the 19th century, but their real importance was only understood after the discovery of Coptic manuscripts at Nag Hammadi in 1945. The latter, although not directly containing the Gospel of Mary, provided crucial context for understanding the Gnostic movement and its relationship with early Christianity. The impact of these findings was profound. During the 20th century, coinciding with a period of general intellectual questioning, scholars began to reassess the formation of the biblical canon and the criteria that determined which texts would be considered orthodox and which heretical. Early church councils, particularly the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, played a crucial role in this selection, establishing doctrinal boundaries that excluded many alternative currents. The reasons for excluding texts like the Gospel of Mary are complex. Some argue that their emphasis on inner knowledge and their presentation of an authoritative female figure conflicted with the hierarchical and patriarchal structure that the Church was developing. Others point to fundamental theological differences, particularly in the understanding of Christ's nature and the path to salvation. This exclusion had lasting consequences. Communities that preserved these texts were persecuted or absorbed by the majority current. Many documents were destroyed, others hidden in remote places, like caves in Egypt, waiting to be rediscovered centuries later. This suppression process contributed to shaping the predominant historical narrative about early Christianity. The debate about the possible personal relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene gained mass popularity with novels like the Da Vinci Code, but its roots are much older. Gnostic texts like the Gospel of Philip mention that Jesus kissed Mary Magdalene, generating jealousy among the other disciples. Interpretations of these passages vary. Some see spiritual symbolism, while others speculate about a romantic or even marital relationship. Leonardo da Vinci, living in the Renaissance when ancient texts were being rediscovered, might have had access to alternative traditions. The popular theory suggests that his famous Last Supper contains coded clues about this relationship, particularly in the ambiguously feminine figure of John Mary. Although most art historians reject this interpretation, interest persists due to da Vinci's connections with secret societies and his known interest in esoteric themes. These theories have profoundly influenced contemporary popular culture. Movies, books, and documentaries have explored the possibility of a sacred lineage descending from Jesus and Mary Magdalene, maintained in secret by organizations like the Priory of Sion. Although lacking solid historical evidence, these ideas capture the public imagination and reflect our continued fascination with historical mysteries. The social impact of rediscovering texts like the Gospel of Mary is multifaceted. On one hand, it offers an opportunity to review religious history from a more inclusive perspective, recognizing the possible fundamental role of women in early Christian communities. This coincides with contemporary movements seeking to restore gender balance in traditionally patriarchal institutions. However, this process also generates tensions. Some fear that questioning the traditional narrative could weaken established faith or create divisions in religious communities. For others, these revelations enrich their spiritual understanding by showing that diversity has always been part of the human religious experience. The gradual rehabilitation of Mary Magdalene's image, even within the Catholic Church, reflects this gradual change in perception. The benefit most significant of this rediscovery is the expansion of understanding about the diversity of early Christianity. Understanding that there were multiple interpretations and practices helps better contextualize the historical development of religious institutions. Additionally, it brings visibility to silenced historical voices, like that of Mary Magdalene, who can serve as a model of female leadership in religious contexts. Nevertheless, inherent risks exist. Sensationalism can eclipse the spiritual value of these texts, reducing them to mere conspiracies or historical curiosities. It is crucial to maintain a balance between openness to new perspectives and respect for the canonical tradition that has nourished the faith of millions for centuries. The figure of Mary Magdalene remains a fascinating enigma that spans the centuries. Her representation in art has evolved notably, from traditional images of penitence to modern representations, showing her as a spiritual leader equal to the apostles. This visual transformation reflects deeper changes in our understanding of her historical role. In terms of symbolism, the title Magdalene itself is a subject of debate. Whether it represents her geographical origin or implies a special status, the tower, remains open to interpretation. What seems clear is that her memory has survived in various forms, from medieval legends about her presence in France to local traditions venerating her as a bearer of spiritual wisdom. The search for new fragments or manuscripts continues, fueled by advances in archaeology and paleography. Each potential discovery has the power to alter our understanding of religious history. Meanwhile, interdisciplinary study of existing texts, linguistic, historical, theological, continues to produce new interpretations and unexpected connections. The final legacy of this lost gospel transcends specific questions about the historical figure of Mary Magdalene. It invites us to reflect on universal themes: the nature of spiritual knowledge, the struggle against internal limitations, the importance of recognizing all historical voices, and the constant dialogue between tradition and innovation in the search for truth. These themes remain relevant regardless of the particular conclusions each person may draw about the historical figure of Mary Magdalene. As we have seen throughout this analysis, the theme of Mary Magdalene and her supposed lost gospel raises more questions than definitive answers. The very existence of this apocryphal text, along with other Gnostic documents, forces us to reconsider our assumptions about the origins of Christianity and the role of women in religious history. Beyond theological or historical controversies, the true value of this exploration is how it challenges us to maintain an open but critical mind in the face of new evidence and perspectives. The social impact of rediscovering texts like the Gospel of Mary is undeniable. From religious feminism to renewed interest in alternative spiritualities, the figure of Mary Magdalene continues to inspire movements seeking a more inclusive and balanced expression of faith. This phenomenon demonstrates how the past can dialogue with the present to create new forms of spiritual understanding. Finally, this journey through the lost gospel of Mary Magdalene reminds us that true knowledge is never static. Each new piece of the historical puzzle forces us to reconfigure our image of the past, and with it, our understanding of the present and our expectations for the future. The invitation is to continue exploring, questioning, and learning, always maintaining the balance between respect for tradition and openness to new revelations.